When I was growing up, popular movies portrayed space travelers and secret agents entering locked compounds just by speaking. Their unique voice characteristics, recorded and encoded, permitted only the approved individuals the access to secret headquarters. Back in the day, that was high-tech suspense. Now, it's commonplace to activate phones or devices simply through voice recognition. For good or for bad, we have Siri and Alexa waiting to hear our instructions. So you may know that one interest of mine is the spiritual implications of voice recognition. You may know I've even written a book about recognizing the gentle voice of God called Sheep Hear His Voice. So let me muse with you today for a minute or two about our ability to sense God speaking to us. Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice," in John chapter 10, verses 4 and 27. So what does that mean to normal people now? As a psychologist, I've noticed that normal people are bombarded by voices. There are messages that have been recorded in our brains from family members, teachers, partners, church, and culture through media and entertainment. Many of these voices are critical or destructive, but the sheer repetition of these messages over and over becomes the grid where we judge our own value, the lovability of other people, and what to expect from life and God. And we all have things to unscramble from those messages and voices. The experts in voice recognition, and by experts I mean Wikipedia, report that the more recordings there are of a voice, the easier it is to authenticate the speaker. These experts also explain that background noise interferes with accurate voice recognition. So, the more time I spend communing with God, the easier it becomes to recognize His voice amidst the static of life and old messages. His voice speaks peace and not criticism. That's Psalm 85, verse 8. His voice points me in a positive direction rather than condemning me for my mistakes. That's Isaiah 30:21. His words soothe the broken places in my soul and resuscitate me. That's Psalm 23, verse 3. I need to hear Jesus. I'm putting His opinion above the critical or shaming messages I've heard from others or that I speak to myself. His voice gives me the courage to make shifts in my thinking and to take healthy risks, the courage to keep loving when it isn't always returned. Now, some people think that only super spiritual people or lunatics hear the voice of God. And the Bible does warn us that not everyone who claims to speak for God can be trusted. We have to learn to test, to recognize and authenticate whether what we sense or hear is truly from God. That's in 1 John 4:1. I think about it this way. When I hear the voice of someone I know, I recognize it. Someone who loves me, speaks with kindness and affection. Their voice soothes me and gives me joy. And even if they're delivering a difficult message, I know that they have my best interest at heart. So people ask, how do I know it's not just me making things up, as they learn to recognize God's gentle voice within their spirit? And I have to admit, I can't give you a formula. But God's written word, the Bible, is the record we use to authenticate what we hear privately. Like the experts explain, the more encounters we have had with God in His Word and listening for His gentle whisper, the better we will become at voice recognition. I will recognize the voice of the people who love me. This is Dr. Tony Cooper. Thanks for listening.